Viola Goodacre, and I am involved in the user interface development in TPF software. I'm going to start off with a brief PowerPoint presentation that describes what zTREX is, and then we can dive into the demo. So firstly, let's take a look at what zTREX is. zTREX stands for Transaction Recording and Examination, and it's zTPF's performance analysis tool. It's not always easy to know what resources are being used by an application, and it can be analogous to seeing the tip of an iceberg, while below the surface it could be that excessive resource usage is degrading system performance, which can lead to bigger problems. And it's important to identify and solve these problems during testing. And this is where zTREX can come in. zTREX allows you to see below the surface so that you can see the extent of the problem, in this analogy like seeing the whole iceberg, and it enables you to view your resource usage and drill down to the possible causes. And as I said earlier, zTREX is a performance analysis tool, and what it actually does is it records comprehensive information on resource usage by your application, and it provides visual representations of the data to make it easy to examine. And as its name suggests, zTREX has two aspects to it. One is transaction recording and the other is examination. So let's have a brief look at the recording aspect. This is controlled from within zTPF. You can turn on the recording of your resource usage data at various levels, which you can see them listed here on this slide. And zTPF will then begin to automatically record all the resource usage data for each transaction that you run until you turn it off again. And you can see on this slide on the right hand side the types of things that we collect as well. And aside from recording the actual data, we have a tool which is the actual zTREX tool itself, which provides visualizations of the data so that you can examine it. And this is done through various charts and tables. So without further ado, let's dive straight into the demo. So first of all, here you can see that I have zTPF already running. So I'm just going to go ahead and connect to a system. And once let me just select the system to connect to. And once we're connected to the system, I will show you the controls for collecting the data. So I'm going to go over to the Analyze tab, and this tab contains various controls for various analytical tools that comes with zTPF. You can see here execution counting and the visual log and the trace output viewer. But obviously for this particular demo, we're interested in this section here, which is the zTREX data collection. And these 5 buttons, I'll talk about each one in turn. Starting with the most obvious one, View zTREX. Clicking that button will open zTREX from within zTPF for you. The other 4 buttons all relate to collecting different levels of data. If you remember in the previous slide, we briefly mentioned different levels of data, and you can click any combination of these. So I could click that, and if you can see that the button stays pressed, so you can see at a glance exactly what you're collecting. If I unclick it, it comes up again, and I can click any combination. So let's just go through each one in turn. So selecting summary level, what this provides is information at the ECB and transaction level. So this provides high-level data about each ECB in the transaction. And if I wanted to delve a little deeper, I can add to that program level. So now we've got program level data as well as the ECB level data. This extra button here, this adds instruction counts to what you're collecting. You might be wondering, well, why have we got instruction counts as a separate button? And the reason for this is that actually going in and counting every single instruction adds overhead and slows things down a bit. So we provide the option to include or exclude instruction counts, and for the sake of speed, I guess we'd advise only include it if you actually need them included. As this is a demo and I want to show you as much as I can, I'm going to include instruction counts. And the last level is file level. So this adds to the resource usage data that we collect, the finds and files information. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to collect that as well. So what I'm doing for the purposes of this demo is I'm saying collect all the information that is available. And so what will happen now is when I run a transaction, all of the resource usage data will be collected and written to a file, and it'll continue to do this until I come here and turn these off again. So each transaction the data collection will be saved to a separate file. So let's go ahead and see that. I'm going to go to the System tab, and I'm going to open my ALC1 terminal. And I actually have two demo programs, and I'm going to start off by running the first one of these. And you'll see later down the line why I have two to show you. So the programs run, and it just what takes a second or so, and then zTPF GI will be ready with the data collection. And when it's ready, it shows this dialog. And this dialog gives us the opportunity to either discard the transaction, to say, okay, I don't want that, I don't want the data collection for that, so it discards the data collection for this transaction. Or I can save it to file, go ahead and save it to file. And this one is a one-click save it to file and open in zTREX. You also have the opportunity here to change the name from the default. If you click these buttons, it gets the default name, which is made up of the system you're connected to, the terminal that you've run the command in, and the date time. But you can change it. I'm going to change this one, and I'm just going to call it ZNAN0. I'm just going to name it after the program that I ran. And I'm going to say save transaction. And the reason I'm saying save transaction is I want to run the other one as well. So now I'm going to come back to my terminal, and I'm going to run my other demo program. And this program's actually almost the same as the first one, just with very slight differences. And in a second, yep, and it's come back up again, and let's just leave the default name, and I'm going to open save transaction and open in zTREX. So this will save the transaction and has opened in zTREX exactly as it said it would. So to talk through zTREX itself, what we have here is a great big blank space here, which I will come to in a little while. And we have this file groups pane here. And this file groups view lists all the zTREX files that are in the zTREX default directory. And so any time you run a transaction and the data is collected, it'll get added to this list so that you can access them. And you can show and hide this window to create more space if you need it and that sort of thing. And you can pin it and unpin it. And we also actually provide easy access to the default directory via Windows Explorer. This Explore Files button will open Windows Explorer, and you can see my two files here. And the reason that we've included this is that it means that you can manipulate the files from within Windows Explorer. You can, for example, if you wanted to take a zTREX data collection file and give it to somebody else to look at and analyze, you could do that. You could just copy this file to somebody else, and all they need to do is open it up in their zTREX and they can look at it themselves. So now to the big blank area, and I'm just going to quickly rename this file because we kept, and you can easily rename files simply by clicking on it, or you can do it via a right click as well, like that. So, but let me just follow the same naming convention and call this after the program name that I ran. Okay, so in order to load a file into this big blank area is the analysis area where you'll actually do your analysis. So you can click on a file and you can click add. You can multi-select files and click add if you wanted to add more than one at a time. But the easiest way is just to double click if you just wanted to load one file. And you can see here that on the left-hand side I have a little pane, and this is a navigation pane. It will help you to navigate through the data collection. And at the moment you can see that the name of the transaction, what the file is here, and on this side is all the actual data. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what's in each of the tabs briefly, and because the transaction is what's selected in the navigation pane, all the information that you're going to see is resource usage for the transaction as a whole. So first of all, we've got the summary tab, and you can see the totals, and the only thing really to draw attention to here is the instruction count. And the reason I'm drawing attention to that is because this would not be included if I hadn't have pressed the instruction count button. But as I did press it, we have the count. And we have the input tab, which is simply a screenshot of what we'd put into the terminal. CPU tab, this shows a pie chart of the CPU usage for that ECB, for that transaction, broken down by ECB. And you can see already that at a glance you can tell exactly which ECB is using most of the CPU time. So this is a good example of the visualization that zTREX brings. Macro tab shows accounts of macros broken down by ECB, and you can see also that this is the macro totals, but we also have a macro details table which breaks it down further to show each macro, and the macro details chart provides the same information as the macro details table, but it represents it visually as a chart, and you can scroll across and you can see that some of these macros are hit now and again, but it is actually mostly this ECB1. And instructions, again, this wouldn't have any in, this chart wouldn't have any in if I hadn't have clicked that instruction count button. Programs, same again, just a graphical representation of programs. Same with frames. A lot of these are pretty similar, but some of them have further breakdowns. So for example, with the frames, we've got the 4K frames and the 1 reg frames, and you can see that ECB1 has 2 1 reg frames, and then a comparison between the two. Finds, same again, counts breaking down by ECB and files. And for the pools, we have a little bit more information here. So we have the pool gets separated from the pool releases, and then we have the comparison of the gets and releases. But we also include some more tabs for the details. So and the details is a breakdown by size. So these are the detailed gets, and these are the detailed releases. And if we go to detailed gets and releases, we have the comparison again. So what we have here is slightly different to what you've seen so far. We have the gets compared to releases by ECB. But you can actually, if you wanted to go down to size, you can click on one of the ECBs, and for that particular ECB, you can go down and have a look at the comparison with the by size as well. And you can see up here that we've got a little navigation area where you can see that we're looking at ECB1 there. And just to finish off the rest of these function calls, same as what you've seen before, DF calls, and same for tapes. And with tapes, again, the same thing of tape reads, tape writes, and tape reads and writes. Doesn't look like there are any for this particular transaction. There's a couple more that I still haven't shown you, and these are on the summary tab. So first of all, let me show you the find file details. If you remember, I clicked the file level button, so we've got this information. And I'm just going to, because it's quite a long table, save me having to scroll, I'm just going to pin this file groups to one side just to give us a little bit more space. And let me just drag this in a little bit as well to give us a little bit more space. This could be quite a daunting table with a lot of, I mean, there's not a huge amount of information here because this is just a demo program, but it could be quite daunting if it got bigger. And I'd like to just spend a little bit of time showing you the capabilities of this table, because one of the strengths of zTREX is that it really enables you to hone the information that you've got and view it in different ways, and that's one of the things that this table helps you do. So examples of the sorts of things it can do, it can you can sort by column just by clicking on the column, and you can filter. There's no point in filtering by time, but maybe I could filter by something else, by macro. For example, and then if I wanted to remove the filter, I can do that too. And if there are particular columns that I'm not really that interested, for example, say I'm not really interested in looking at the subsystem user, you can just drag it off, and you can actually get rid of columns that you're not interested in and reduce your view that way. If you change your mind and you want them back, there's a little star in the corner. Just click on it, bring your columns back again. And similarly, you can actually also drag columns to where you want them. So you can bring, for example, I'm bringing this macro column further forward so that it's not off the edge. And so you can actually manipulate the view to what helps you to view the data. And the last aspect, which I think is pretty useful, is the ability to group. So for example, I can drag this column out, and that causes it to group by finds and files, so I can actually separate out the reads and writes. And I could, if I wanted to group it even further, I could say, let's see what's pool and what's fixed. And it'll separate it out into pools and fixed. So let me just bring that back again. So I thought it was worth just spending a little bit of time just showing you the capabilities of this table. And the last tab to show you is this ECB's tab. So as I said earlier, we're looking at the transaction level, and some of the areas, you know, it breaks things down by ECB. So we're looking at the transaction as a whole and breaking down by ECB. And I've shown you all the charts, and this table actually contains most of the information that the charts contain, but it breaks it down. So you've got a breakdown, summary breakdown by ECB, but in tabular format, and this table has all the same capabilities of the find file details table that I just showed you. Okay, so now I've really given you a basic overview of the the type of data that we collect and the visual representations of it. So the next thing I'd like to show you is how you can drill down further. So if we return to the navigation pane, and you can see that we've been looking at the transaction so far. So let's just open that up, and now we can see the ECBs. So we can select an ECB and we can view information for that ECB. So at this point, the information that's available is kind of the same as at the transaction level, but you are now viewing it for that specific ECB. So, and what that means is that if you look at, let's take the macros table, the macros view for it as an example of what I'm about to say. When we were looking at the transaction level, let's just go back to transaction, we're looking at it and we've got a breakdown of the ECBs. If I'm looking at it at the ECB level, I've got a breakdown and it's by program. And apart from that, what you're seeing is the same, but what you've done is the actual tables and the charts are the same, but what you're doing is you're actually drilling down further and you're looking with a breakdown of the programs themselves. So, and then the other the other knock-on effect is this programs tab. So just to go back to the ECB view, if you remember, this showed the ECBs. Well, if I'm looking at an ECB, this provides summary information about all the programs that ECB uses. So the next level, I guess, that we can go down to is the program level itself. So taking ECB1 as the example again, I can expand that further. And if I just pull this out a tiny bit, you'll see that we have find file counts alongside them. So you can see summary information for that specific program. And obviously you can go to these tabs, but these tabs, because we're now at the program level, it's just going to show sort of information for that one program now. And you can view information at the program level for individual programs. And again, this is available because I clicked the program level button in zTPF GI. So because we can choose what levels of information we want to collect, the program level information here is available because I clicked that button. That's really how to navigate your data collection within zTREX and how you can manipulate it and view it. The next thing I wanted to show you is how to perform comparisons. So this is where my other program comes in. So I'm just going to double click the other program. This is in the file groups view. And I'm going to come back to my analysis view. And what you can see now is that in the navigation pane, I have both those transactions, and you can select transactions in your navigation pane and click remove to remove them. And you can add as many as you want here. You can add more than two, but so I've got my two transactions and they're both selected. So now when you have a look at the when you take a look at the data area, you can see that I've got the one transaction and I've got the second transaction and I've got summary information for each one, and you can see at a glance what's the same and what's different. So, I mean, for example, if you've got a program and you've made changes to it and you wanted to say, okay, what is the impact of my changes resource usage wise, you can compare old with new and see what the differences might be. And this is the single view. This shows them all together in one view as an easy comparison. But I want to show you this arrangement section in the button bar. and you can see that single is pressed. So it gives you a straightforward comparison like this. But we can also do a tiled view. So let me click tile vertical so you can see what that looks like. And what that does is it actually loads one transaction in one window and it loads another transaction in a separate pane. So what that means is you can still see them side by side, but you can view the whole one as a whole. And so let's go back to the macros again, and you can see it as two columns next to each other. Tile horizontal is exactly the same thing, but you view it horizontally like so. So it depends on what your preference is from that point of view. And you can also, as I showed, the ability to drill downwards, you can also do the same thing, but as a comparison. So for example, if I wanted to compare ECB1 and its equivalent ECB on this side, I would just select each one and I can see a straightforward comparison like so. And if there's a difference in anything, obviously you could spot the difference. And same again at the program level. Obviously you can select or multi-select as many of these things as you want, but it only really makes sense to compare like with like. So so let's just select, and I can see that this one had a count of 139 and this one had a count of 132 macros. So and just returning to the single view again, I just want to show you what it looks like in the single view as well. So here we've got, you can see which transactions and which ECBs they are. And if you want to do, I seem to be going to the macros quite a lot, but so what you can see here in the single view is you can see that they're labeled as the transaction in the ECB, and then this is the transaction in the ECB, and you can see a difference. And this is true. I mean, you keep using the macros chart. There's a macros detailed chart as well, and you can see that the yellow is ECB1 and ZNAN0, and ECB33 is ZUVA0 is blue. So and again, you can go down to the program level and you can see charts like this there as well. That's an overview of how you can compare information within zTREX as well. The only other thing that I wanted to show is that with any of these input is blank there because I have more than one thing selected. Anything that you wanted to export a particular view. So for example, if I've honed down on a particular area and I want to copy that to Excel, all of these charts and tables, you just simply right click and you say copy, and that copies it to your clipboard, and you can go into Excel and you can say paste, and it pastes that information. So you can create your view of the information you want, and you can copy and paste into Excel. So that's a way of just keeping a record of information. So that's all I was intending to show you on zTREX. I've managed, what I wanted to show you is how you can use it to collect resource usage information and analyze your resources usage information as well. Are there any questions? Hang on, sorry, I do have a question now. And this is from John Rojeski. I apologize if I've pronounced that wrong. And you missed where I copied data into Excel. So I'll just show that again. Let me try the find file details. So all I'm doing is I'm right-clicking on whatever I want to copy, and I'm saying copy. So I'm doing it via the right-click. So I'm saying copy, and then pasting it into Excel. I just open an Excel spreadsheet and I paste it, and it goes into the sheet. So I hope that's sort of clarified that for you. Yeah, okay, thank you. Any more questions? Okay, I guess if there's no more questions, I'd just like to thank everybody for attending this webinar. And before we end it, I'd like to make you aware that at the end of the session, you'll be presented with a short survey that shouldn't take you very long to complete. And this survey is important to us because it helps us to better understand your expectations and to improve your webinar experience. In addition, following this webinar, we're going to be sending you an email with a link to a video of the recording of this session. So you can pass it on to others who are unable to attend, or you can watch it again at your convenience if you need to. We also circulate the zTPF GI product e-zine, which details our latest features, product updates, tips, and so on. And this is sent out every 2 weeks and is sent out to all our webinar participants, so you should receive this too. And you can also access our recordings of previous webinars by visiting our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/tpfsoftware. We have many more webinars planned because we run these on the second Wednesday of every month. So please come back and attend some others in the future. Thanks a lot for joining this session, and I hope you all have a good day. Bye-bye.